Good evening, welcome along to the show. It's like a meeting of old friends here, and I'd include you in that, loyal viewers, on YouTube as well, those who catch up with this Sheffield Live TV show on YouTube later. Two real friends of the show in the studio with me this evening, two distinguished ex-players of the Sheffield clubs, one from each team, who these days comment on the affairs of those former clubs with great perception and authority. Kevin Gage in the red corner there. Is that all right for an intro? Is that your?
It's the best intro I've ever had.
You'll take it, won't you?
Yeah.
Kevin Gage and Carlton Palmer, as I say, two great friends of the show. Thanks very much indeed for coming in. It's brilliant you're coming in. We've got lots to chat about the respective fortunes of the Sheffield clubs, and it's so hard these days because there's nothing to moan about. Honestly, you know, often I get you guys in and there's something to really chip away at, and there's nothing at the moment, or at least you'll find it if there is. You'll find it if there is. But first, before we sort of talk about the football, and I've got to get the right person for this. One of you's doing training for marathons. I'm just speaking, Kevin.
That's not me.
Oh, it's not you. No. It's you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, which you've never done before.
No, so I'm doing the Sheffield Half Marathon on the 26th of March for Cavendish Cancer Charity, and then on the 23rd of April, the London Marathon for MenCap.
Wow.
So two good charities. So it's just, actually, like I said to Gage, it's amazing what you agree to when you've had a few beers. Well, it's for a great cause and start the new year off well.
So at what time of New Year's Eve did you agree to do this thing?
Well, my wife's roped into, well, she's not doing the London Marathon, but she's actually been roped in to do the half marathon, Sheffield Half Marathon.
I'm really impressed. And I'm even more impressed that you're doing dry January. That to me, that's harder work than what you're doing on the run. Is it?
Well, you've just mentioned three things I will never do: half marathon, and dry January.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
I'd do the first two. I've done the first two, but the third one, no way.
I always do dry January. I do 3 months of the year, maybe 3 months, 4 months of the year where I don't drink, just to. Yeah, because I like a drink and I drink a lot. So sometimes it's just like, you know, after Christmas and whatever, just, you know, January, just get into shape and leave it alone for a bit.
Two charities benefiting: Cavendish Cancer Care, who you've done plenty of events before.
Yeah, I'm a patron for their charity.
And this is
MenCap.
A cancer that provides free support packages for cancer sufferers and their families, Sheffield-based. And MenCap, and that's the London Marathon, full marathon, obviously doing the half marathon to train for the full.
Absolutely.
Well, he covered some ground on the football pitch, didn't he?
I'm joking apart. I mean, that's impressive to be fair. And I know you're a runner as well, Alan, so you can appreciate it. That's fantastic from Carlton,
Yeah, but he's put me under pressure now because he's told me. I've said to him my plan was to do under 2 hours. And he's told me he's done over 2 hours when he was 60.
I did under 2 hours, not over. Yeah, under 2
hours when you were 60.
You've given my blooming age away now.
Well,
nobody knows I'm over 60, do they? Anyway, he did cover some ground on because you and he, you know, you had your battles. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember playing in midfield for Aston Villa and playing up against you, and you were a young lad, maybe late 80s or something like that. I think you just moved to Wednesday. So we've had a few tussles, but it's interesting that we're complete opposites. So Carlton, you were always a good athlete, and you're naturally slim and fit, not an ounce of body fat on him. I'm the complete opposite. I had to work, you know, very hard to maintain a level of fitness because I'm a chunky guy. You know, if I've got to eat right and, you know, made sure I drunk the right things, ate the right things, didn't go mad, trained hard just to stay. Kind of just to be competitive, not even to train to get a competitive edge. I just had to do that anyway. Yeah. But I mean, you could run all day, couldn't you?
Yeah. But he can drink all day as well and run all day.
I can't drink all day.
But the thing was, and you know, I have said this to people. I have got a natural level of good fitness, but when I came to Sheffield Wednesday, I actually used to train with a fitness guy twice a week. So I used to work on that because that was my main attribute to get around the football pitch. So I had to work at it. So I did have a natural level at it, but I did work at improving that all the time.
Yeah, very, very impressive effort. Well, perhaps relive some of your scraps on the field a bit later in the show. We'll certainly remind people of how they can sponsor Carlton for these two very worthy causes. We'll come to that during the show. In fact, you can find a Just Giving page. If you look at Carlton Palmer, Cavendish Cancer Care, a Just Giving page, there's one already set up. I noticed there's nearly 1,000 in there already.
Yeah, exactly. And the one's gone up for MenCap today as well.
Excellent. Right. I mentioned at the start, we like a good moan on here, and I can't find anything. In fact, today, you've got Sheffield United second in the Championship, Sheffield Wednesday second in League One. And I was looking, and, since Blades 0, Rotherham 1, that was on November the 8th, that's more than 2 months ago. Neither Sheffield club has lost a game of football, and I don't include Wednesday losing in the EFL Cup to Southampton because that was on penalties, so they didn't actually lose the game of football. That's 18 matches between them since either of them has lost, and going back further, they've collectively lost one of 30 3-0 matches. So find a bit of a moan out of that then.
That's an amazing.
To you first.
That's an amazing stat, to be honest. I shouldn't think that's maybe not happened before, where two clubs are in the same city. Wednesday United are riding so high in respective leagues.
I've been around here covering it for 45 years, and I cannot remember a sequence as good as that.
No, it's brilliant, and I think Wednesday will win the league, and I think United will go up, and it's what this city needs now. We need Sheffield United to get in the Premier League. I'm Owls through and through, right? But the city. I've always been of the opinion that I want the derbies, in the Premier League. So if Sheffield United are doing well and they get up, people in the industry like Gage is in now, you got Arsenal, Man United, you're full up every week now. Your rooms are full, all the local industries benefit. Everybody benefits from, Sheffield United being promoted. Championship next season for Sheffield Wednesday, bigger clubs coming here. It's massive for the city, it really is.
Yeah, Manor House Hotel at Dromfield should do all right out there. Yeah, no, just get that in there. I can hear people howling at the screen. Wednesday fans, who've put you on a pedestal, saying, "But we don't want United getting promoted. We want promoted. We don't want United going up."
But I don't understand that mentality. See, you support your club. I'm Sheffield Wednesday through and through. But even when I played at the time, I was out with Pembo and Ann the other night. Pembo, Bees, Gailey, Gagey, all of them, we were all mates. When it came to a match day, it's a different ball game, but we were all mates. So I don't understand the mentality that if it benefits the city that you live in, right, you can still support your team passionately. Why wouldn't you want them to be successsup?
But what you don't want is a scenario where Wednesday miss out and United get promoted. Under those circumstances, you're not going to want the Blades to get promoted, are you?
Well, listen. I still think for the city, it would be brilliant for Sheffield United to go up. I am 100% convinced that Darren Moore will get Sheffield Wednesday up this season. They're a very good side. They've been very consistent, and I think I'm hoping the chairman will back Darren again. He's backed him so far this season. I'm hoping he'll back him again in this transfer window. Losing McGuinness is a big blow for them, but I'm hoping that he'll back him again in the transfer window. And if he does that, I think they'll kick on and go up. And Sheffield United are 9 points clear now, and they're playing very, very well. So if Icky can keep hold of the players, I don't see why they wouldn't get promoted this season.
We'll come back to Mark McGuinness in a minute. Do you take a similarly charitable view there, Gagey, from the red corner?
I'll take the fifth. Is it the First Amendment or something?
The fifth, is it? Yeah.
Fifth or the first? I can't remember. Yeah, I get what Carlton's saying, and bearing in mind neither of us are born and bred Sheffielders, are we?
No.
So we've come up, whenever 30
Birmingham,
years ago,
London,
whatever. Yeah. So
Kent. actually. So yeah.
So it's
none
an
of us-
interesting take.
Yeah.
For me personally, it doesn't bother me where Wednesday are in the league because I'm purely focused on Sheffield United. To be honest, I understand I've got mates who are Wednesday fans. One of my best mates are season ticket holder, so I get all the info from them on how they're playing.
Yeah.
And I agree with Carlton. I think they've certainty for playoffs, and on such a good run, I think they might nick a top 2 spot. I certainly agree with your assessment about Sheffield United, by the way, because I put a little post on Facebook and social media the other week just saying, don't worry, lads, we are going up. Nothing's going to stop us because we're just too good a team to let it slide now. We're not suddenly going to lose 4, 5, 6 games on the trot. We're not going to go to Burnley or Norwich or Blackburn and get hammered 3-0. No. It's not going to happen because we're just too good. So, we may not keep this run going, this fantastic run of wins and draws and unbeaten. We may not keep that going and we're going to have the odd setback. But we'll be more than good enough to get a top 2 spot.
Blades fans are fatalistic for a reason, though. They've seen it. I mean, I was, working when Dean and Fjortoft were sold on the same day. And
you can't keep harking back to 15, 20, 25 years ago, can you?
But
you have to look. I mean, recent history, there's been very, very little to moan about. We talked before we came on about the Chris Wilder, and even before that, Danny Wilson did very well for us.
Yeah.
Couldn't quite get us finally up.
There was the Ched Evans one, which was outside people's control.
Scuppered it, yeah. But certainly the Chris Wilder era was fantastic. We got relegated from the Premiership, which happens. When we've got no divine right to be in the Premiership for years and years and years.
How does it change? I think we were talking before we came on air about what the gap is. I think I'm right in saying the gap between United in second and Blackburn in third is, I think it's 9 points.
It's 9 points with the goal difference, because our goal difference is plus 20 or something. I think Blackburn's either nil. I think the nearest to us is Norwich on goal difference. I think they've got about 6 or 7. Maybe Watford, actually. It's maybe plus 6 or 7. So the goal difference gap is something like 14, 15
That's
goals.
worth a point.
It is a point, yeah. As I said, you're not going to go away to Burnley and get hammered 4-5-0 and the next week 3-4-0. That goal difference will remain fairly solid.
You're not going to lose 4 games and the other teams win 4 games.
Exactly.
That's not going to happen, because if it was going to happen, it would have happened now. It's not going to happen at this stage of the season.
But how does it change the psyche? Because it's United's to lose. They've been chasing, pushing. They've opened a gap, and all of a sudden, I remember under Neil Warnock, I think it was in 2005-06, they had a similar size lead, and there were some nervy moments, towards the end there.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but John Egan actually did a good article, reported, I read it in the Star today, or yesterday or today, I read it today, and he said it's how you deal with the setbacks, how you deal with failure, because they are going to, when you accept you're going to lose a couple of games, but it's how you bounce back from that. So, you mentioned the Rotherham game earlier, we got beat 1-0 at home, and it was a terrible game and not a very good performance. Since then, I mean, they've bounced back fantastically well and just kept the momentum going all the way through. So, as I say, I think we're just too good a team to either let it all slide defensively or not to stop creating chances going forward. And the only way it could possibly go wrong is if we sell all our players in January.
Yeah.
Sell our major assets like Njai and perhaps Sanderberg. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, Sanderberg, Sanderberg, I don't think is going to go. They're asking 25 million. Yeah. So I don't think that's his release clause. So I don't think he's going anywhere unless United want him to go, or somebody comes in with 25 million.
I thought it was higher actually than.
Well, it might. No, I think it's 30 odd million. But United had said what I read, whether it's true or not, that they would accept an offer of 25 million when Liverpool were sniffing around him.
They're not getting. They're not going to get it. Nowhere near. I don't think.
No, they're not.
I don't think so. I don't actually think he's playing particularly well enough to warrant that figure at the moment. He's got it in him. But I actually think we could cope with the loss of Sanderberg if we absolutely had to. I think Njai is a completely different kettle of fish. I think I'm not saying we'd struggle without him, because McAtee's brilliant at the moment and he could potentially do something up there. But he's the one that makes us tick going forward and creatively at the moment.
Yeah, talk a bit more about Njai later, key player, Mark McGuinness, and whether it is completely dead for Sheffield Wednesday. But your assessment, Carlton, as an owl, on what you've seen of Sheffield United and the job that Paul Heckingbottom has done there.
Well, I was surprised, when they give Icky the job, because it was like, didn't they give him the job in the first place and then got
in the Premier League?
And he did well, and I thought, well, give him the job then.
Yeah.
And then they took him away, and then brought him back, and then I think the masterstroke for me was bringing Stuart McCall back.
Right.
You know, he's Sheffield. Stuart is a great bloke anyhow, and he's a great coach, and I think he's got an affinity with the supporters. You know, that goes back, and so I think he's done an absolutely amazing job, and I've watched them play. You know, they play. They've got that spirit that you need. You know, it's not always about being a good side, right? It's about having that spirit to deal with your good times and your bad times, and they've got that with the likes of Billy Sharp and you know, I mean, look at Billy now. Billy still come off the bench and score you 2 goals when you need them. You know what I mean? And they've got that within the squad. And I agree with Gage. I can't, you know, I don't want to tempt fate because I want them to go up for the City of Sheffield. But I can't see them losing 4 or 5 games on the bounce, and other teams doing that. They might lose the odd game, but I think they'll bounce back.
There was a period in October, I think it was, and I remember going to Stoke and covering the game there, and it was in the middle, and they lost 3-1, and it was in the middle of a period of 6 without a win. And I thought Hecky's management was particularly good then because he didn't overreact. You know, he kept positive, kept really calm. And lots of people were losing their heads, weren't they, around that time? He was getting criticism. You know, you don't know what you're doing kind of criticism. It doesn't take a lot to get that, does it? How ridiculous that was.
Well,
when you look at it.
Once again, it's Blades fans, isn't it? Always. If there's a worse side to look at, we'll find it, won't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, taken as a whole, Hecky's done a fantastic job. Yeah, I agree with you. He maybe should have been given the job anyway before Slav was brought in because he did well in the Premiership. But all the players have responded to him. I think you're right with Stuart McCall. I think he's really been a fantastic presence in the dressing room, not just for his football knowledge, but his personality and the way he's got the group together. And Hecky's all part of that as well. But the players are experienced players as well. You know, they've been there, seen,
Egan's,
done it.
Baldock, Norwood.
Yeah, I mean, Norwood's had 3 promotions already. He's been around the grounds.
Yeah.
You know, they're experienced, seasoned pros, so they're not going to let anything upset them.
But they get together as a group now, wouldn't they, Gage? And they'll go, right, listen, we're this backside of Christmas now, let's kick on and get this over the line. You get together as a group.
Yeah. Oh, I can't see. I think you're right. I mean, I've been saying for a long time. I think both of them go up, and it's hard to argue. Hard to argue against it. So, a view on. I don't know how much you get to see Sheffield Wednesday, or even want to see Sheffield Wednesday, Mr. Gage. But your impressions from across the divide.
I can't honestly say that I know too much about Wednesday. I watched them against Newcastle, or Newcastle reserves, shall we say? But
He made some changes too.
It was an impressive performance, and I tell you what, Windass took his goals supremely well. He looks a very, very good player there. Yeah. So we need to keep hold of him.
But I think they've got an option on him.
Right, okay.
They've got an option on him.
Do you think?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, you know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know who the options is in favour. I know there's an option there, whether it's in Dean's in the. But listen, he's a Sheffield Wednesday. I've got a lot of players who are not League One players. You know, Barry Bannon, McGuinness, Josh Windass, the list goes on. So they'll always play better against better opposition. You know, when I speak to the boys sometimes, speak to Josh, and they get disappointed because they're not playing well against League One sides. But like I said to him, listen, you've got to understand, when a League One side comes to Hillsborough, it's like going to Wembley. With the support we have at Hillsborough, the ground and everything, so it's going to be difficult. You've got to grind this. You just got to get out of League One, grind it out, clean sheets, nick them 1-0, and get out the division. And then next year, like we did at Sheffield Wednesday when we got promoted, we went on to finish 3rd, 4th in the top division. And I think Wednesday can do a similar feat.
Yeah, and Josh Windass, he's made a point of not particularly, at least publicly, entertaining any more contract talks, hasn't he? He sort of batted them off, which looks quite good from the outside because he's just committed to getting them promoted. But he knows he'll be in a better position, of course.
Well, as I say, there's an option there. You know, listen, Josh was injured last season. Had Josh not been injured, I doubt very much whether he'd have still been at Sheffield Wednesday because, you know, there was Championship and Premiership clubs looking at him. But obviously Josh wants to play as high as he can. So, you know, what he's not wanting to do now is commit his future to the club until he knows for certain that they're going to be in the Championship next season. If they're in the Championship next season, I know Josh likes living in Sheffield. He loves playing for Sheffield Wednesday. I think he'll stay at the club.
We'll talk about Darren Moore a bit later and the fact that he could be attractive to suitors, and I don't know what his contract situation is. But you'd think the same about Hecky, wouldn't you? And such a well-balanced management. Stuart McCall mentioned there by Carlton and yourself, Jack Lester being a former striker. You've got every position covered,
let's not forget Jack Lester's influence, because he does a lot behind the scenes as well, you know, in the coaching, like a bit more individual coaching and taking the strikers, and very influential in getting possibly or probably our best player of the season, which is Anel Armhodic.
You said it.
Jack, yeah, I've been practising. I've had a lot of practice at that name.
Neil Warnock wouldn't say it, would he, on TV last week at the QPR game? He got somebody else. Brilliant. Well
the only reason he's at Sheffield United is because of the relationship he had with Jack Lester at Nottingham Forest a few years ago. So they struck up, you know, a good relation. Yeah. Good. He's admitted that in various interviews and podcasts and that. So he knew Jack Lester very well, got on with Jack great, and Jack sold him the club, and we're reaping the benefit now because he's been superb.
I must have missed out on that. Yeah. That's good. I mean, an incredible and a ridiculous signing for £3 million. Have you seen this guy?
Yes.
Ahmed Hodzic.
Yeah.
He is just unbelievable.
It's
for £3 million.
Proper player.
Yeah.
I hope they got them tied down. Or got a big clause on him.
He's obviously got, you know, 2 or 3 years. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's once again, he's done so well, and people are taking notice of him now. If we don't go up this season, you know, he could be off in the summer because he's that good. So he's going to be. I think he's going to be a Premiership, like Njai. I think he's going to be a Premiership player next season, whatever happens to Sheffield United, you know, whether we go up or what.
It's his promotion or bust, really, and as things stand at the moment, without a takeover, which may go through in the meantime, we never know, they're precarious things, but, you know, if the same regime is there, doing their best, don't go up, that could be the breakup of this team, I think, you know, in terms of... Also, I've not mentioned the Sheffield Wednesday, Newcastle crowd congestion headlines. I've read everything about it. I wasn't there. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I feel that it's pretty much of a non-story, or not very much to back up story on that one. So we'll move on from move on from there, really. We've got a minute and a half to the break. Who would you say in your respective corners would be the player that was most difficult to replace in your respective teams at the moment?
Well, I'll go first, and you'd expect me to say Njai or something like that. I'm going to go for Oliver Norwood, right? Because I don't think there's a player like him in the whole division. There's certainly no one like him at Sheffield United who can orchestrate things the way he does from midfield. Yeah. Literally everything goes through him. He kind of dictates our tempo and our pattern of play and the direction of play, just about everything. And this season has been remarkable. It started actually under Hecky's reign last season, but this season has been remarkable. And he's added a bit of steel to his game. So he's getting interceptions in, he's getting his foot in, he's making tackles, he's disrupting the opposition. All his key metrics, all the key data, he's first in interceptions, tackling, which you wouldn't think that Oliver Norwood would be anywhere near the top of those kind of comparisons, but he's doing brilliantly well. And this is, on his passing ability is second to none as well.
Indeed. Wednesday?
Simple. Barry.
Even though without him, they've won the last 3.
Yeah,
you know, with walks, but
yeah. I mean, listen, they've got players that can come in, but Barry's very influential. Not that he's a great player, but I think his leadership qualities. He gets around players. He's old school, you know, the way he goes around and gets people playing.
Excellent.
But he's a terrific player.
5 seconds to the break, and we'll talk about a lot more of this in part 2 with Kevin and Carlton. See you then.